What's up, gamers? Welcome to Battle Mallet Podcast, episode 75, Hexed, Jaws, and Gardeners. For anyone that isn't familiar, the Battle Mallet Podcast is the journey of three busy gamers playing games that they love, balancing life with those games, and making their way to the Nova Open Convention every year. My name is Jerod Johnson. Tonight I am joined by Trace Al Capone Hyde.
I have the power!
And Jason Tabledew Murray.
Of Grayskull?
Yes. It does. Oh, not what we're talking about this episode, but I guess it'll come up. In this episode, we are going to cover the two newest, not re-released warbands for Warhammer Underworlds, the Jaws of Itzl, and the Grandfather's Gardeners. But before we get into that, I guess since we haven't done it in a while, we can catch up with what everybody's been up to lately. And we're going to let Trey start because of his intro.
I got a giant box of stuff.
You did get a giant box of stuff.
Yeah.
What was in that giant box of stuff?
All of the Masters of the Universe miniatures game, Battlegrounds game that has been released up until this point arrived in a giant box that weighed approximately 23 pounds.
That's a lot of plastic.
It was a lot. But I've been super excited about it. I've got the core box built. The terrain is clipped out. I've got to trim it up and make sure that it's nice and neat. But start painting on that so that we can play some test games with stuff. And then I also painted the Grandfather's Gardeners.
Nice.
We have already seen. And you can get to yours when we get there. But other than that, I'm also entering in my first quote unquote competition mini.
Oh,
yeah. So I'm starting on a competition for Richard Gray's webpage. It's not been announced yet, but it's going to be the Lord of Plagues model is what everybody is painting. So be on the lookout for that. Some work in progress paint pictures and some other stuff. So that's what I've been working on and been playing games too. We played my first official games of the new Underworlds this past Monday before Thanksgiving. Had a lot of fun. Took out the Gnarl Spirit pack with the generic Slayer's Chaos War Scroll. It was pretty spicy. That charge and getting tokens and killing stuff and charging again and pulling charge tokens off and charging again. It was pretty fun. And then tried the Ember Watch. And they played fine. They played exactly how I figured they would play. Yeah, so that's what I've been up to.
What'd you play into? Because I wasn't able to make it out. So,
first game I played into Sepulchral Guard.
So that's
charge bop,
painful.
charge bop, charge bop.
Yeah.
And then the second game I played into Canaan with the Ember Watch, which was charge bop, charge can't kill you, charge can't kill you, charge can't kill you.
Yeah.
I ended up losing that game, but not by much. So it was fun. All the games that I've played so far have been pretty close. But yeah, those are my first official games of the edition.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Looking forward to painting some He-Man stuff. Go ahead, Jason.
I have been, I don't know what I've been doing. Building decks, playing Space Marine, the same things that I've always done. Taking kids to practice. I did also get out to our first Warhammer Underworlds 2.0 event. I played the Razors, the Razor Scooters, and that wonderful squid. they were fantastic. Lots of dice. I played into Storm of Celestis, which was probably not the best litmus test. You know, I did not know that my opponent was playing Rivals and I was playing Nemesis, as I was super excited after just building them. And then my second game was against Sepulchral Guard, which there was a funny thing in there where I was trying to keep them off objectives, and then I realized, oh wait, to farm glory, I can't be attacking the same skeleton that I've been killing the whole time. So I had to kind of change the strategy, but it went well. Between the Hammer Tide and how many dice they throw, they play really well. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Felt like Underworlds. Happy to be in playing 2.0 out there with the crew, and now it was my first one, and it was the first official night, but that's the second time that we've met up. So it was good to see that our community is still there, strong as ever, and even growing as we get older players back in. Other than that, I did buy the new set of Loricana for the kids, so we opened a bunch of packs. Did not come anywhere close to completing the set yet, so we'll have to trace all that down. And I'm such a collector, I can't stop something and not have everything for it.
Cool enchanteds though?
No, this is the first set that we've got into, and look, we opened the fewest amount of cards that we've ever opened, so I guess that's okay. But yeah, it was the first set that we have not gotten an enchanted out of. So
okay.
But nice. You?
Yeah, so I kind of scheduled an off-schedule meetup last Thursday, and some of the locals came out and we played. I brought Emberwatch and Daggok Stab Lads, and let me tell you, when Daggok inspires and he's 3 hammers for 3 damage, it feels pretty good. And then you give him great strength and he's just a be-bopping right along. You get some commanding stride and some sidestep and some lure of battle, and I think our initial assessment of Daggok was right. I think they're going to be pretty good. We'll just see how they shake out. And then outside of that, I had been painting the Jaws of Itzl. I got those posted up recently. Thanks again, Games Workshop, for sending us Jaws of Itzl and the Grandfather's Gardeners for us to paint up and review.
Yep.
And then outside of that, it's been a lot of life stuff. So taking kids to practice, we're having the house painted. So that meant stowing all of my miniatures in all of my soft foam carrying cases so that I'm not asking movers to move cabinets that are full of miniatures. And then doing just a bunch of other work around the house. Mostly because anytime we do something, we see it as an opportunity to get rid of stuff. And so there's a bunch of stuff sitting in our dining room right now, a bunch of furniture that we're getting rid of that, that's just taking up space. But that was a lot of work. But
hopefully it goes away, because if it's like my house, it's like, oh, we're going to get rid of all this stuff. Our collecting point is the garage, and then it'll sit there for another 2 or 3 months.
Yeah, no, we can't. We have like a 0.8 car garage. So there's no, we can't even pretend like we're going to store stuff in there. There is a plan to get rid of it. We'll just see if that happens sooner rather than later. But yeah, the local community seems pretty fired up about the game. Everybody that I talked to, everybody that I asked questions about after the game, how did it feel? What do you like? There's a lot of positive feedback, which is good to hear. It's good to know that our local community is going to stick around, going to keep playing the game because it's a lot of fun. But yeah, and then I guess, we haven't talked about it. It did happen, is Worlds. And, we don't have to spend a whole lot of time on that. We didn't attend. So I think most people from Path to Glory were there. Most of the What the Hex crew was there. the Underworlds Underground / Spent Glory crew had a contingent there. So check out all of their stuff for follow-up from that. I'm sure we'll have some comments later on down the road. It seems pretty apparent that Drom might be pretty good right now. But we're not going to review that right now, and maybe we can talk about it when we get to that box.
I did forget one of my biggest hobby progress.
Oh, yeah. What was your biggest hobby progress, Jason?
It is Christmas, so decorating the house for 3 days was a huge hobby.
That is big.
Yeah. I'm not quite Clark, but
you're getting there.
You're very close.
It takes us like 8 hours to do the outside, and then another 6 hours to do the inside. And then the last night I spent, we bought a new tree, which is 9 foot tall. Our last tree was 9 foot tall, and we have 9 foot ceilings downstairs.
Oh gosh.
And the last tree, it was fine. Like, it went up, you can like bend the top, put the star on. Well, yeah, this one's a little taller, so the star didn't fit. So I had to make hobby modifications to the star to get it to fit on top of the tree. And then we added one of the projectors. So that took me a couple hours to get it installed in the room, shining on the windows so it doesn't have to be touched.
Nice.
So, yeah, fun little stuff like that.
That is fun. Yeah. We'll do the inside after the painters. But we'll start on the outside, I think maybe this weekend.
Didn't you get the lights?
We started today. So
yeah. I mean, the lights are done. But that was easy. I just opened the app and changed the colors.
I think I'm going to do that next year. Anyway, now I'm rambling.
You got permanent LEDs outside, Jerod?
I do. Yeah, I got them like last January, I think.
I am 100% convincing Jenny to do that coming, not this season, but the next. Because it's like probably $3 or $4 grand, but whatever. I don't ever have to get on a ladder ever again.
No, it was worth it. Totally worth it. I will give you the guy I used. And
I just want him for 4th of July.
I want him for 4th of July, Valentine's Day, St. Patrick's Day, Super Bowl, all that.
we used them during the Olympics. I had red, white, and blue flying during the Olympics.
There you go. Yeah.
It was cool.
Totally worth it.
Yeah, I had them just orange and red for between Halloween and Thanksgiving, just for a little pop of color on the house, without having to do much else. Anyway, we're super delving away from Underworlds gaming content in general. Balancing life and games. Sometimes your hobby progress is taking care of the house. Anyway, so with that, we'll take a break, and when we come back, we'll sink our teeth into the jaws of Itzl and toil the soil of the grandfather's gardeners. And we're back, and we are ready to talk about the two newest contenders in the Warhammer Underworlds universe, the Jaws of Itzl and the Grandfather's Gardeners. I almost said Plague Pack, and that is totally wrong.
You're getting old.
The number of warbands in Warhammer Underworlds is too darn high. No, it's not. Or is it?
So Jaws of Itzl.
Jaws of Itzl. So I'm stoked. Like, I'm just going to gush for a minute. Putting these models together was amazing. Painting them was awesome. I did a paint scheme that I had never done before, where I did a two-tone on their flesh instead of what I had done for the Warhammer Fantasy Saurus Warriors that I painted. Crow Jax is a jacked bro. He is larger than a Stormcast. He is larger than a Stormcast.
He's super cool looking though.
Yeah, and the miniature is amazing. Like, the shield sculpt is really cool. Like, all of the musculature, his scarring, like everything on them just looks really good. And they were a ton of fun to paint. A lot of detail in there, but not so much that it's overwhelming. And then, I mean, minus the Venomites, it's like Morgoth's Crushes 2.0. I just want to go in and beat face. So I think we can start with the fighters, and then we can talk about the War Scroll. I think it'll kind of lend itself there. There's 4. The 3 Saurus warriors all have 5 wounds each. They are worth 3, 2, and 2 bounty, which adds up to 7, which means that the little Venomites are worth no bounty. So we got a fighter like Tick, or fighters. I don't know. But the thing that I thought was
one health,
one health, right? But so they will never be vulnerable unless you give them a wound upgrade.
That is true. Yeah.
So, and yeah, if they get pinged off the table, I got to be honest with you, as the Jaws player, I would probably rather have that, because then I'm in a game state where all of my fighters have charge tokens so that I can continue to activate them. If you like just leave them alone, then I'm kind of stuck with this little totem with some lizards on it that isn't really doing much for my warband.
Well, I mean, what they do, and we'll get into this in the War Scroll card, is a support element, and they have 2 dodge, so they may stick around if someone tries to attack them. And then also too, they help you hold an objective.
That's true.
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, treasure token
or feature token if you're
feature token
pillaging and plundering.
Yeah.
And they judge you the whole time.
They do. That is the judgiest little idol I've ever seen. We don't need to run through the stats. You can check the stats on our blog. You can check them in all the deck builders. The images are posted everywhere. The one thing I do want to call out, and I can't remember where this was said, but the idea that like the more kind of savage, brutal warriors hit on swords, and the more like accurate, refined warriors hit on hammers. That may have been like a first edition Smashes and Furies. The idea that like, your more practiced warriors would hit on hammers, and then your like savage warriors would hit on swords, was a thing. So they kind of go into bloodlust when they get inspired. So they're, 2 hammers, 3 swords uninspired, and then they all go to 4 swords inspired to hit. And they inspire
at all.
Yeah, just weight of dice is nice, but just thematically, I think it's cool that you just get to huck a ton of dice because these lizards have entered a bloodlust. There's potential for 3 damage. There's a crit Grievous on one of the fighters when they inspire. Crojax does 3 damage flat, both uninspired and inspired.
Crojax going to 2 shields inspired, 4 dice, 4 swords, hitting for 3.
Yeah,
it's pretty good. I mean, the 4 swords is different, right? Because now it can be blocked. The crits don't matter as much, I guess is the right way of wording that.
Right.
But he's just like, when he's inspired, those two shields, 5 wounds, he's just going to stick around. Sokar is the other fighter that gets Grievous, crit Grievous. So it's nice that it's baked in, right there. Like, you don't need the upgrade. And the fact that, off the jump, they're doing 2 wounds. It's not too shabby as well. I do have one complaint about these models, though, and I don't know if it sticks out as much when you have them in person, because I do not have a set of these. So it's Jerod, being the lizard lover, got the set. But Sokar and the Jack of all Jackarinos, the Tyrannosaurus Rex of lizards. If you look at those 2 models, like, their head tilt is almost the same way, and the shield is almost the same. It's not.
They're pretty different once you get them in person. Yeah, what you can't see from the images, Sokar is almost at a run, and Crojax is at like in a more of a defensive posture. Like, his shield is like, it's almost like he's about to like sink it into the ground to make like a shield wall out of it.
It looks like he's getting orders from the position that he's in.
Yeah.
Like he's like yelling orders to the other 2.
Yeah. But looking at the images on the cards, I can see where you would see that. I didn't feel like I was painting two miniatures that were posed the same when I was building them and painting them, though. So,
well, awesome. A four fighter warband that gets extremely accurate and damagey when they're inspired. So how do they inspire?
Yeah. So after inflicting damage on an enemy fighter in your opponent's power step or action step, pick a friendly fighter, inspire that fighter. Well, damaging an enemy fighter in your opponent's power step, that seems pretty straightforward. You just got to play a ploy in your opponent's power step. But how are you going to damage an enemy fighter in the action step?
I don't know. Maybe rebound? Oh, wait. No.
That would still be in the... Oh, that would be. Yeah.
Yeah. What about
No, but maybe. Kind of like rebound. So on their rule scroll, they have a surge ability. Predatory fighters. Use this immediately after an enemy fighter's failed attack if the target was a friendly Saurus, and there's a little Saurus rune mark, which is cool, and the save roll contained any shield, inflict 1 damage on that enemy fighter. So if you roll a shield on your defense and the attack fails, which could be a drawn attack or a flat-out failed attack, you get to inflict 1 damage on the enemy fighter. So in the early games, doesn't happen a ton. I mean, it's a 1/3 shot on any.
Oh, and it's not like chance. Yeah, and it's not an attack. This is just inflict 1 damage. So if they drive you back, it still is gonna still can trigger. Yeah. They could be range 4 and it would still trigger. So
that's right. Yeah,
it's like almost like a better Steelheart's Inspire condition.
It's like Gallinghan. It's better than Gallinghan's reaction from season 1.
Yeah, I mean,
because his was only on a crit.
The old Steelhearts was you just have to roll a shield in your defense characteristic or defense roll, but this is, you roll a fail, they roll a fail, you roll a shield, you do a damage to them, and then you inspire.
Yeah. It's almost like a win more. Like it's all the negatives happening to your opponent, which kind of sucks, right? Like, oh, they failed an attack. Oh, I rolled a shield. Oh, you get a damage. Oh, I inspire.
Yep.
But though I think the thing to point out here, though, if you really want to control the inspire, you're going to want to play ping damage, right? Like that's
you got to take countdown or rack and ruin.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got to be Plunder has the 1 card. Yeah. Yeah, and you got to remember when to play it.
Yeah, because if you play it in yours, still do the damage, but not as much. And like Jerod said, predatory fighters is a surge, so you can use it as many times as it meets the condition on there. So,
but I will say that the failed attack is probably not going to happen as much as you think, just because of the way that the dice work now. The outweighing of the number of attack dice versus the number of defense dice. And then you can't just single def crit out of stuff anymore. So it's a lot. I'm not going to say it's harder to fail, but it is harder to fail. It's just, I don't know how many natural things like that are going to occur. I think it'd be cool when it does, but I don't know how often that's going to happen.
I think you pick Crowjacks to inspire first so that you've got somebody that's rolling 2 defense dice. Or you fish for defensive upgrades.
Yeah, if you're a new player to this, for our new players out there, the easy thing is to go with Tyrannosaurus Crowjacks and inspire him. I think situationally, as you develop into this warband, it may not be, the perfect thing all the time.
I think that's the one thing that I don't love about the Inspire condition is that you pick a fighter. It's great if you want to play them all the time, but if I'm doing damage to one of the other guys and then you inspire Crowjacks, that doesn't feel good because, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like it should read that if whatever the target of the attack was would inspire is how I feel like that should read. If you do it the natural way, if you're just pinging, that's one thing. But if you trigger predatory fighters, I feel like it should be the Saurus that was attacked, not just a Saurus.
Could be, but it's not. So I'm just going to inspire the Tyrannosaurus Crowjack.
I'm complaining about a war scroll. For anybody who's listening, I'm complaining about a war scroll. That something that I don't like about the design space. That's what I'm saying.
Unbelievable.
I apologize for his negativity. Anyway, moving on to the other
abilities.
Powers. Yeah.
Abilities. Yeah. So we have the Surge ability, Instinctual Control. Use this immediately after you pick a target as part of an attack made by a friendly Saurus. Pick a friendly minion that is currently only Sotex Venomites. With no move or charge tokens, that fighter can move.
Yeah, so this is an easy way to set up flanked, right?
Flanked,
or get them on a treasure token, because it's just a move.
It doesn't say that the move has to end adjacent to the target. Doesn't say that it has to end adjacent to a friendly fighter. It's just a move. So pop them onto a treasure token.
They're not slow. I mean, they move 3.
They do move 3.
They move 3, and the fact that it says that fighter can move, you can trigger other things off the move, right? So they will not be slow. They will get to where you want them to go. And the fact that when inspired, most of these fighters are hitting on the swords with that flanked.
Just turns it back into hammers.
Right back to hammers.
Yeah.
Another one is Savage Mauling. This one is going to be one use only per game. So use this in the power step. Pick a enemy fighter adjacent to a damaged friendly Saurus that has no charge tokens. Roll an attack dice for each damage token that friendly fighter has. Okay. I'm kind of following. Damage friendly. Okay. For each sword or crit, inflict 1 damage on that enemy fighter. You can only use this ability once per game. Each time an enemy fighter is slain by this ability, you can use this ability once more. Wow. So ping all day, every day.
As long as you're killing people with it, sure.
In a power step.
But which power step do you really want to use this in?
Probably your opponents, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Now, if there was only a way I could damage myself. Oh, wait, I think there's a card for that.
Yeah.
Because there's not lethals anymore.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, this is a good way to, probably roll 2 or 3 dice and fishing for swords and crits, to inflict maybe 1 damage. You could start getting real spicy and put Great Fortitude on somebody and make them vulnerable, and now you get to roll 5 dice. But it's not something you can count on.
It's not something you can count on, but it's a cool ability. And if you play it at the right time, you may be able to use it more than once. And it just gives them another tool. So this is the first time you're seeing where you're not getting the cards to kind of help you with the Inspire, but you're getting abilities on the War Scroll that function that way, right?
I know exactly what card I would pair for this, but we'll get to that in a second.
Sidestep?
Nope.
Oh, I just thought Sidestep was for everything.
Yeah.
Scream of Anger, my friend.
Oh, inflict 2 damage and then
you take the charge token off.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
So you've charged. You do
Scream
damage.
Of anger.
You Scream of Anger.
Remove
then
the
you
charge
pop
token.
this ability with your charge token, take it off, and then you do potentially 2 damage to the fighter.
Yeah.
And then you Healing Potion.
Correct.
Nice.
I
like it. And then we've got the last once per game ability, and that is Obstinate. Use this in a power step. Pick a friendly Saurus. That fighter cannot be driven back until the end of the battle round. You can only use this ability once per game. Oof. Just run Crow Jackson in the middle of some dudes and be like, yeah, he's just going to stay there.
Yeah. Obstinate makes the heart grow fonder. Is that what they say?
That is exactly what they say.
Nailed it.
So good at words, Jason. Oh. All right.
Yeah, I like all their War Scroll abilities. The only thing that I'm not super keen on is just the Inspire not being the one Saurus is being attacked. But other than that, I like all the rest of it. because it aligns with how I like to play, which is
always be charging.
So I think overall, like play style for these, obviously the easiest one is strike. That's what it's defined as. But I think there's some spice in here where you can do a pretty good flex as well.
Oh,
like
100%.
they have high wounds, they're on block, they have the sneaky Venomites that can hold something in the back or move through the War Scroll ability. They can move multiple times per game.
You can have the Obstinate where you can not be driven off a token.
Yep.
That there's definitely some other play in here too. Get some weapon upgrades that give them some range, and they might have a good flex going on.
Nice.
And take all the pings. New player rating.
I mean, I think they're going to be easy to play. I don't know how frequently they're going to inspire. So gold minus, silver plus.
I think they're silver just because, like, yes, they're very good and they're just the pure raw stats will carry them for a long way. Like, even on the uninspired side, they still hit fairly accurately. So like,
I'm gonna disagree with both of you. And I'm gonna say gold all the way. And that is because I think 3 Rivals decks pair well with them. You have Wreck and Ruin, Reckless Fury, and Blazing
Assault.
So like for a new player, like you're gonna get something out of each of those decks. Now one of like the Wreck and Ruin, obviously the objectives will be harder to score, but like the ping damage is going to teach you that on how to inspire the fighters, and you just might end up by gobbling them up all the other warband. So I think they are gold just because you can pick 3 Rivals decks and kind of do what they want to do just based on their fighter cards.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can see that. I think there's just some,
makes sense to me.
I think that the big thing though is that there is some level of learning curve with learning how to maneuver a good 3 fighter warband.
I mean, think about like, so you get the free move with the Venomites. So it's only 3 activations. No, I'm just saying like other things for the listeners. Like, and then, so it's only 3 real actions that you need to take. So you could even dig for cards. Like you have a free action.
Yeah. Free focus. Once per round.
Yeah.
So
free opportunity to focus. Yeah.
With that, I think I covered all the questions on Itzl, right? Off the top. I didn't even need no notes.
No, you nailed it.
Okay, good.
Sweet. So let's
so show me how your garden grows.
I got hose.
All right, talk to us about the minis, painting them.
The minis themselves are awesome. I've always enjoyed painting. I mean, what I love about painting Nurgle, and this goes for anybody, is that you have a lot of grace when painting Nurgle models. You can make them look really gross and just put all the washes on them and be super sloppy, and they look awesome. And then you can also paint like a lot of Golden Demon players do, which they will just layer up and highlight and make all these beautiful blends because there's so much opportunity for the models to, present themselves in awesome ways with just a lot of care. And then you can just get like really creative and colorful, like how I did. I went with a really bright green and then, added in some purple undertones and stuff like that. So there's just a lot of really awesome detail on all of these models. The ticks are an interesting addition. It is my critique of the warband, and I understand that it is a key feature of Dripterus specifically, but the ticks are not my favorite. I feel like they're distracting, especially when you on Flemus. There's a lot of them. Like you can't really see behind his head from the card images, but there are 3 on his back There's the one on his chest, and then there's like 3 or 4 on the staff and his arm. I felt like there was just a couple too many ticks on some of them. But anyway, overall, I loved painting the minis. Flemis's Potbelly is hilarious. And just have fun with them is, I guess, my advice to anybody who's painting them. Like, don't try and paint them necessarily like the cover art. Just find something that you think is gross looking. Like, you can take, actual reference images from the internet if you want of dead things and surgical cases and stuff like that if you want to. Or you can make them super colorful, kind of like the box art does. But they're awesome. Enjoy the whole gardening thing with the staves or with the staves and the rakes. And then you have Slunge with basically being like the bodyguard of the farmers, basically. They were really, really fun to paint. I enjoyed them. But yeah, the fighters themselves are fairly sturdy, with most of them being 4 wounds when they inspire, which we'll get to in a moment. Most of them are on 1 shield, and then the bounty spread is fairly even. Flemis is 2 bounty, Slunge is 1 bounty, Strug is 2 bounty, Dripdress is 1 bounty, and Squirt is 1 bounty. But Jason, you were about to say something. What were you about to say?
Yeah, so like a 5-fighter warband, which is is cool to see another one of these newer design warbands being 5 fighters. This one's different in the fact that the bounty is spread across all 5 fighters. So all 5 fighters giving up something if you lose them. They are another block warband, so a single block on all of them, whether inspire or not inspire, except the fly or whatever that friend of a minion is.
Squirt. It's a plague fly.
Yeah, it looks like something that smushed. Is on 2 dodge. Also has the lowest wound characteristics of 2. It is nice to see that the wounds going up when they inspire.
Yep.
And I think the biggest thing with this is, the leader is not what his name is. That's actually Winnie the Pooh, because he's got a honey pot.
Exactly.
So,
yeah. So the reason why I say that they're on face card value, they are not necessarily sturdy. But when we get into their War Scroll card, which is, I'll talk about the Inspire now. It says, Inspire. After an action step, if a friendly fighter is vulnerable, inspire that fighter.
So after the action step, which is not part of the power step, right? The power step ends, if I remember correctly.
I believe that's correct.
That seems right.
But it's any action step, so that's yours or your opponent's.
Yep. So after any action step, if a friendly fighter is vulnerable, inspire that fighter. The reason why this works is because of another ability on their War Scroll called Imperturbable.
Easy for you to say.
I had to work through that.
I'm not. It'd just be like that one ability.
Which says no more than 2 damage can be inflicted on an uninspired friendly fighter in the same turn.
Oh, so the turn is. Go ahead.
Nope. Back up. No more than 2 damage can be inflicted on uninspired friendly fighters.
Yep.
In the same turn.
Multiple.
Not a.
Yeah.
Oh.
So if you hit one uninspired fighter for 2.
Yep.
Then you cannot ping any other uninspired fighters that turn.
Yep.
Oh, that's spicy.
Yeah. So they basically adapt to your damage for that round and keep going.
Yeah. Now you can ping the fighter you just inspired.
Correct. Sure.
But
But then they go up.
It's a nice.
They go back.
Oh yeah,
to
so
hell.
that so your opponent's gonna be managing this. Yeah, you hit somebody for 2.
Yep.
Because they're uninspired. So even if you hit them for 3, it would be 2. They would then inspire.
Yep, and then they have 2 wounds remaining.
Vulnerable.
Yep.
Well, they'd be invulnerable first, then they would inspire, go back to 2, and then you could ping them because they are now inspired.
Right.
That's pretty cool. And it's going to be hard to ping them twice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you're probably going to get at least an activation on everybody. Oh, that's really, really cool, except that poor fly.
Yeah. R.I.P. Squirt.
Yep.
Good luck with the 2 dodge. So
something else that I'll call out is the Blooming Plague, where a friendly fighter has the Gardener rune mark instead of a characteristic. The Gardener rune mark is equal to the current space on your tracker, which leads us into the rest of the War Scroll card, which is the cycle. So in the Muster Warband step of setting up, place a generic token on the start space of this War Scrolls tracker. Advance that token 1 space clockwise immediately. After your turn, after damage is inflicted on a friendly fighter, after your turn if your warband holds more treasure tokens than your opponent. Okay. So we kind of see from these descriptors how you should want to kind of play them. However, the cycle itself has 7 steps, which is very nergly of this warband. The start step is 1. The second step is 1. The third step is round number. So that could be 1 damage, 2 damage, or 1, 2, or 3. The fourth step is 2. The fifth step is 2 with a surge ability called Reap a Harvest, which says, use this immediately after placing your token on this space. Pick a friendly fighter, heal that fighter. So you get a cheeky little heal. And then that also has a step of a number of 2. Then it moves to 3 on the 6th step of the cycle. And then it goes to 2 again on the 7th step of the cycle. And then you start over. So why this is important is because the damage characteristic on a lot of these fighters is the Blooming Plague rune mark. So that means that your damage characteristic throughout the game is going up and down, up and down, up and down. So it can go to 3 when you've hit 6 on the cycle, but most of the game is going to be either 1 or 2. And that is pretty much every fighter in the warband that does this.
Everybody but
Squirt, who is inspired, is actually pretty spicy with his 2 damage with Crit Grievous.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that this is going to be an interesting mechanic to manage, but I think if you can play some 4D chess with them, you'll be able to kind of plan out your turns and manipulate this cycle in such a way to where you can do a lot of damage on turns that you actually want to do stuff.
And I think for me, this is Underworlds 2.0 War Scroll card.
Yep.
Like this is the first time that we've seen something new. Like, I mean, this would normally have been a plot card, which I don't think you can fully realize an ability like this. And it's going to really make this warband a mastery warband. And I love it. Like it is really, really cool to see this cycle and the thought that goes into it. So, right, like the first 3 spaces on this cycle are 1. So what do they make you do in turn 1? Advance at 1. So you go through basically 2 cycles of being at 1.
Yep.
And then if nothing else happens to you, your first activation of turn 2, I should say, your first activation of action step 2, whatever, game round 2.
First action step of battle round 2.
There you go. Yep. You are hitting for 3. If nothing like it just advance it after your turn. If you're,
that's right.
You can advance it more quickly, and get to that 3 quicker, and you're going to get 1 attack, and then it's going to cycle down to 2. But what you're balancing is, as you come back around, there are those 2-1s, and how can you get through those 2-1s as quickly as possible? And then in battle round 3, you're going to have an opportunity to hit for 3
twice.
Yeah,
2 times.
So and you've got a heal
cool
in there.
Yeah, and you can try and push forward to the heal. There's a bunch of different things you can do.
Yeah.
And then like the treasure tokens too, if you hold more treasure tokens. So like if you think about it this way, you get the after your turn, and if you meet the after your turn and you have to, if you're holding more treasure tokens than your opponent, you've skipped to the round number just in one activation.
Yep.
So you can actually get through this pretty quick. And I find it really, really entertaining. And Jerod Johnson, you're never allowed to play this warband ever.
No, not ever. No.
Go back 5 actions. I forgot to move my counter. But I find them very entertaining. I think that they are going to play well with things that allow them to kind of control the tempo of how they want to play. So playing some pings and playing some hold stuff, I think they're going to enjoy, where they can soften somebody up and then charge in with a 2 or 3 damage attack. Because they're fairly accurate, especially when they inspire.
Yeah.
Flemis is hitting for, the cycle damage on 3 hammers.
At range 2.
I just like the fact that if they're not inspired, it could like really affect your opponent's deck, right? Because we saw at Worlds how much ping Wreck and Ruin was pulling out and how people were leveraging that. Not that it was overwhelming, but it's still there. And this warband, if they just don't inspire, good luck feeding through that. And then when they do inspire, I'm getting more wounds. I'm very intrigued. Like this may be the first big brain puzzle that we've seen in version 2.0, and I'm there for it. I think that this is the perfect hold / flex warband, almost just like begging you, like, hey, come hit me, because something good is not going to happen to you, or is now going to happen to you because you've touched me. And how beautiful is that for a Nurgle style warband? Like, you come in, you run and hit me, I throw a tick on you, and next thing you know, I'm mission accomplished.
Yeah.
I mean, in one activation step, well, almost, there's ways to do it in one activation step where you can get all the way to 2 without any issue. Because like, go back to the card that I pulled out with Jaws of Itzl, like Scream of Anger. If you really want to do that, you could Scream of Anger Slunge, for example, and then he goes to 1 health, and then he inspires, and then he's hitting on, whatever it is. It's for 2 damage. After you're trying to get him on you try and get somebody on a token, you damage Slunge, and it's after your turn, so you go to whatever it is. So like if you're on the round number 1, say that it's like your 3rd activation, you can push Slunge to 3 and then charge him. Fun stuff like that.
Yeah, the other thing here is this may be the first like hold warband in turn 1 where you might want to go first, right?
Yeah.
So I go first, I move, we'll just say the fly for lack of better choice. I'm already starting on the 2nd dot because it was the first turn, so it automatically moved 1 as I set up my warband. So I move the fly onto a token, right?
Yeah.
I have the first activation, so that will move it to round number because it's after my turn, and I hold more treasure tokens because I took the first turn, so I'm on 2. Now you come in and hit me. Oh, now I've gone to reap a harvest, so I'm now going to heal one of those damage that you've done to me right now. And then because I probably still hold more treasure tokens than you because you're attacking me, I've gone to 3, and now I've hit you back.
Yep. They're very counterpunchy. I will agree with you there, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, manipulating that cycle is going to be the hardest thing.
Yeah, but late game, what do you care about the cycle? Because you probably have Grievous on them, right? So
yeah.
And the round number, like there are only 2 spots that are going to give you 1. Most of them are going to be 2. Like,
and 2 that give you 3. Yeah.
Like, I like them, and just to plug the Nemesis deck library, like I have a deck up there that is very much a hold deck. It's a flex hold deck that I'm super excited to try these guys out with as soon as I get my hands on them.
Yeah, no,
Nice.
I agree. I think they definitely present a new puzzle for folks. My challenge to everybody is to play them only with mastery decks and see what happens. So you play it with Countdown to Classic Cataclysm and Rack and Ruin and just see what happens. Because you're managing all the counters at that point.
Yeah.
Triple dog dare ya.
Do you?
Do.
What are you,
chicken?
Specifically? I mean, Rack and Ruin, I guess. Like,
it'll be fun.
Not right. Countdown. I really like Countdown to build with. Like, it is.
There's a lot of good cards in there.
And Rack and Ruin I'm taking because I think that the ping as I'm holding here is just great. Like, that's what I built with. I built with Rack and Ruin and Emberstone Sentinels. Like, I mean, Supremacy. Oh, I love it. So,
yeah. Supremacy for them is going to be. Yeah, I like it because you put one of the 2 bounty and one of the 1 bounty on 2 objectives and you're done.
Yeah.
And then you just let them sit there, let them cook.
Yep.
All right.
Nice. Anything else?
So we've talked about
gold or silver.
Well, we've talked about it being mastery. We think it's a take and hold warband. At least that's the way I think it should be played. And then when it comes to new player rating, I think they're bronze.
They're bronze.
Oh yeah. I think they are playable for a new player. Like there's nothing that's confusing about the rules.
No.
Everything is written very clearly. It's very clear how everything works. I think it will be difficult to be successful with them as a new player.
Yes.
You have to be thinking several steps ahead with them to really make them sing, I think.
Well, you just got to remember all the ability windows, and they're not windows. They're just the points with which the abilities trigger or timings.
Yeah.
So that's what will be very hard for new players. But that brings me to one of my favorite things of this 2nd edition Underworlds is the fact that with these releases that are coming up here, you do not have to buy everything. Now, we've said this before in the past when it comes to Underworlds, but this new edition, it truly is like if this doesn't sound fun to you at all, like figuring out this puzzle, like, and you skip Grandfather's Gardeners, like you lose nothing, right? It's the same with the 2 new decks that are coming out. If they don't intrigue you, which they should intrigue you, they're both very good and have great building tools. You can pass and you miss out on nothing. Like the only thing that you need is Emberguard box, and like you have this stuff to play with, right? It's the same thing with Jaws. Now, I personally would like these 2 warbands over the 2 warbands that came in the starter box. So go out there and get them. But we are in new territory, completely new territory, that we are picking and choosing what we need and don't need for this game. Similar to last season, but I think it's heightened for me with how many other warbands that we have in version 2.0, which might lead us to another conversation point.
So what I will agree with you on that, and what my thoughts are on what you just highlighted is it feels a lot more like a more traditional Games Workshop game where you pick your force that you like, right?
Yeah.
Pick the thing that you like. If you like Lizardmen, or if you like whatever, you can totally lean into that. And like you said, you buy the the Ember Guard box because you need the board and stuff like that. But you are truly freed from feeling the need to chase all the warband boxes, all that stuff like we used to back in the day, which leads me to my complaint about the edition, which is there are 35 available warbands now. And if you are the type of
in organized play,
Yep.
35. And then there's more for not organized.
Yeah.
But my point being, that is a lot of choice for a brand new player to have to siphon through. If you are fresh to this and are excited about playing Underworlds, you are just as overwhelmed as somebody who was trying to collect all the stuff previously, because you're trying to pick the right thing. Like if you're brand new into it, yes, you're going to buy the Ember Guard box, but then the choice that's in front of you, like, is massive. And if you don't have the information or you don't know where to go to look for the information as to like what you might like to play, because you might think you want to play a certain way and then you find out, no, I don't like playing that way at all. So you're at this crossroads of, it's awesome to not have to buy anything, but then if you do select something that you do want to play, there's a lot of choice in front of you. And then if you are brand new and you want to collect all of it, that is a lot to try and collect. That is $400 worth of Grand Alliance boxes, another $100 core box, two $30 decks, and two brand new warbands. Like, you're $700 in the hole at this point. That's a lot. That's too much for a brand new player if they want to collect everything.
And I completely agree with you. I was very much sitting in the camp of, I have all these models. I don't want them to go away.
Yeah.
Right. Like I want to use them.
Yeah.
And I think GW may have realized that, like, hey, like we have a solid player base. Like we can't just not give them something to play with. And I love the Grand Alliance boxes, like the 4 warbands in each Grand Alliance. And if you are a new player, like that's where I would start, is like, what? Exactly. Pick one of those, get that one. Now you have 4 warbands to kind of roll with, plus the 2 that are in the box. So that gives you 6. I love that. I love the Grand Alliance. I love the box. I love these 2 warbands. I think honestly where I have a problem is the last 2 years of model releases getting the PDFs that are in organized play.
I agree.
Because the first thing that they said was, oh, we're making it more approachable where people can actually get the models to play with. So then you showed up at an organized event, you're not seeing something like, oh, that looks cool. But this might be more, there might be more choice than when you're playing Index 40K or Index KOS.
Yeah.
And the more and more I think about it, like I love the fact that I can still play all 58 warbands with the generic War Scroll card and all that. Even though it's not as flavorful, I like that I can still use my models. But I think for organized play, I'd much rather just see the 4 Grand Alliance boxes and then the 4 new warbands, and we'd be at 20. And that is still a tremendous amount of warbands to play for a brand new edition.
Yeah. I mean, it really is it's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't scenario.
It is.
I love that we have all of that available to all the people who have been in this game for years and years and years. But as somebody if somebody is brand new to the game, like I'm feeling overwhelmed a lot. If I want to try and say that I am the type of player that I need to have everything so that I can pivot my strategy to be the most competitive at any event that I want to play at. If that's the type of person that I am, that is a ton of things to purchase if you've never stepped foot in this game before. That is more than any 2,000 point 40K army to get into this game and be competitive.
Yeah, and I think it leaves questions unanswered. Like, we don't know what rotation, we don't know what that legal warband format is going to look like going forward. And I hope it happens sooner than later, because there is plenty of variety to play in these boxes that have been released. And playing the other night, one thing that was super weird is I had like legit a PDF printed black and white copy for fighter cards in the War Scroll, and that's not how I hobby. Like, I like the stuff, like the real stuff. But again, if you flip it 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago, whatever this like all happened, came out, and they said that I was going to lose 16 warbands to the ether, I would have been pissed. But in hindsight, I think it would, for organized play, that would have been the better call. Jerod, anything?
Yeah. Well, yeah. So, I mean, my question now is, like, when does Warhammer.com line up with what Warhammer-community.com said? Everything that is legal for organized play will be available on Warhammer.com and in your friendly local game store. And you know what's not on Warhammer.com right now? Farstriders, Spiteclaw Swarm, Skinnerkin, Dagox Stablads, Iron Souls Condemners, the Thricefold Discord, Zandara's Gravebreakers, Brethren of the Bolt, Sepulchral Guard, Balog's Bob, Cyreni's Razors, Thorns of the Rock Queen, and Zarbag Skids.
I've never heard of Zandire's Gravebreakers.
So it's like, I mean, stick to it.
But yeah, put your money where your mouth is,
At least in first edition, everything was legal and you just had to get it where you could get it. But now they've kind of put themselves out there. And I've said this on our off podcast chats. There's a part of me, like, I'm with you. Like, it's too much. There's a part of me that wishes that we were launching a game with
a quarter of what we had.
I don't know, 4 warbands.
Well, I don't know about that far, but
I don't know that I really want to go that far. But
I think that I'm with Jason. I think that 20 is a good round number to start with.
Yeah,
you've picked the way that they did those boxes was pretty smart. In that they picked warbands that represented different types of each warband style from across all the different seasons. Like, friggin' Yilthari's Guardians is in there.
I'm so excited. I can't.
Me too. Like, I am too. But my point is that they did a good job of spreading the love across all the different seasons and bringing those back, and making them available when they previously were not. And
then you go into Worlds with 31 playable warbands.
Yeah.
And oh wait, there's something that maybe not balanced. Like,
right.
Brand new game. It was bound to happen. But for me, like, and I know my, prior 2 months ago self would be beating my butt right now saying, like, why would you ever not want something? But seeing, like, how just for casual play, how fun the generic war scrolls are, just again for casual play, to make sure that I still have something to get my minis on the table. I think that I would have been fine having them roll in there. I would have been disappointed that some didn't make it, but
yeah,
and
we have too much now.
That's kind of where I approached our first game night too, was like, all right, I'm going to take something that's using a generic war scroll and just see what happens. And I had a lot of fun. With that generic Chaos Slayer War Scroll in Gnarl Spirit Pack. Like, it was fun. It felt like Gnarl Spirit Pack. Like,
yeah.
Throwing lots of dice, getting cool stuff when you kill something. Like, it was a lot of fun. Like, was the bestial transformation stuff there? No. But, okay. Still fun to play with.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think that new players are either going to be overloaded with choice as to like what they should pick and try and get their best hobby dollars spent, or they're spending $700 to get all the stuff. if they want to catch them.
Which tracks for an army for GW.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm not telling people to not come play our game and go play 40K. Please don't do that. Like,
well, I'm just saying, like the price point is there.
Right,
and
it's the same.
As I look at the retail establishment that is GW, it's there. Like they want X amount of dollars from every person for every game,
right?
And it's like there. And you can argue about X, but it's awesome. It's awesome that we are complaining about something that we have too much. I just think, like you, for the state of the game, it would have been better to start the game at 20. And go from there, and the physical copies too. Like, hopefully, I get my cards here soon, like the ones, warbands of the Ember Guard or whatever it was. I was lucky enough to be able to pre-order those.
Those two,
and that'll probably be the end for the downloadable ones. Even though I love Razors, like they're super fun. I didn't play them in the last edition, but I just want my printed stuff.
Yeah. Physical copies.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's hobbyists out there that have figured out how to get them printed right, but that still is like, I got to get the file, then I got to send it to FedEx or Kinko's or whatever to get it printed on the cardstock.
I just don't like to give money to something that is not like
a game store or
the game store. Yeah. Like it just feels strange to me to not give it to a person that's in the hobby or a game store that's in the hobby or the company that's in the hobby. Oh no, I got to go to Kinko's and print stuff off or, you know, it's just weird. Anyway, enough of that. Thank you again, GW, for these preview copies of Jaws of Itzl and Grandfather's Gardeners that Jerod and Trace have painted up so nicely and that they will play. I look forward to receiving my non-free copy from my local friendly game store. With that, we'll take a break and close out the show.
And we're back, and that will wrap up the 76th episode of the Battle Mallet podcast. We want to say thanks again to Games Workshop for sending us advanced copies of Jaws of Itzl and Grandfather's Gardener to paint up and review. We also want to say thanks to you, our listeners, for taking the time to listen to our content. You can check out our blog. Check out the Nemesis library. That's all at our website, battle-mallet.com. If you want to follow us on socials, we are Battle Mallet HQ on X and on Blue Sky. And on Instagram, we're the Battle Mallet Podcast on Facebook. And then, as always, I am going to ask you to like and subscribe, review the podcast on the platform of your choice. It's the best way to get our content out to people that have not heard it yet beyond word of mouth. I think that's it. Shout out to Daniele, who won Worlds with not Drom, with Thricefold Discord.
Pretty spicy,
holding it down. Loved it.
And shout out to Davey from What the Hex and Mike F Fish Mode from Spent Glory and Underworlds Underground for taking on streaming that event under relatively short notice, as I understood it,
and giving us a shout out.
And giving us a shout out. Shout out to Derek, Captain Murder, for giving us a shout out. On the stream. But all of that is on the Mortal Realms. So youtube.com/The Mortal Realms. You can find all of the, all of the games that were on the stream are still there. So you can watch the world's action at play. And I have to say,
it was very well done. They did a great job.
Yeah, the stream was really good. And then, I think I would lose 97 out of 100 games to the top probably 8 players that were there.
I mean, you do lose to me all the time.
I do. Yeah, but you weren't there. But it was just really cool to see top tier, high caliber play, tons of really good sportsmanship on the stream. there were several instances where like double crits were rolled and the opponent celebrated, and then double crits were rolled on the other side and they were celebrated. So it's a lot of fun. It's a good watch. You should check it out.
Some of the warbands look really nice too. The paint jobs that you can see.
Yeah. Cool.
And some raw plastic, which is completely okay too. So don't be.
It was okay for this event.
Yeah.
But you can
It's
play.
okay for any event.
Bring unpainted plastic to the local gaming store. Just play the game. It's so much fun.
Just play.
Or just be independently wealthy and commission all of your warbands to be painted. Like somebody we know.
Yep, that's me, independently wealthy.
For the Battle Mallet podcast, we are at least 3 too many ticks on a plague bearer. This is Jerod signing out.
It's Trey signing out.
And I'm Jason Tablelew Murray. Get the hell out of here.
Peace.
Go Bills.
The Battle Mallet podcast is protected under the Creative Commons license. If you have further questions as to its use, you can find more information via links on podcast.battle-mallet.com. Music by Anno Domini Beats.
The first thing I said to him was, Aziz, light! He knew exactly what I meant and went and grabbed the lights and brought them to me. And I said, perfect, thank you, Aziz. And he just started laughing. But then I needed a second light, a second set. And I was like, James, I need more lights, buddy. And he, unprompted, help is on the way, dear!